Telescopes, satellites, and space monitoring stations around the globe have picked up a flare 100 times more powerful than any that has ever been recorded in history. This is an incredible, incredible event. Are you prepared? Do you have your underground bunker built? Is it properly stocked? Does your family have an emergency plan? Do they know where to go, who to contact? Do you have enough food stored up? Do you have an emergency food supply that can last you? Everyone knows this event was going to happen eventually. Those who are prepared will be ahead of the game. For those of you who haven't heard what a flare like this can do, there's an article here. Solar flares occur when charged particles in the sun's plasma erupt in space, traveling with enormous speed. These flares can increase the effect of the solar wind, the force of the particles constantly flowing out of the sun through the solar system, or they can cause a coronal mass ejection, a massive burst of charged particles and magnetic fields. If a solar flare strikes Earth, it can cause a number of different effects, primarily electrical disruption, broadcast interruption. I'm sure many of you have heard this before. I'll give you the link to this article. Are you prepared? Are you ready? Now, I'm sure a lot of you are probably wondering, I haven't heard this anywhere else. Why are you the only one reporting on this, Florida Mucky? Well, a record-breaking flare erupts from a neighboring star. It happened on Proxima Centauri. And it has nothing to do with our planet, but it is instructive. A giant flare that is 100 times more powerful than any flare our sun has ever released has erupted from a nearby star. A new study says Proxima Centauri is our sun's nearest stellar neighbor at 4 light years or 25 trillion miles away. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are probably wondering, Florida Mucky, you made it sound like we were in imminent danger. The way your title reads and the thumbnail, that was misleading. It was almost as if it were disinfo or misinfo. Well, maybe. But the real question is, when is History Channel and Nat Geo and Discovery, when are they going to be held responsible for their verifiable disinformation that they put out nearly 10 years ago, causing incalculable losses and damage to people around the globe and economies around the globe? Who remembers the 2012 Mayan apocalypse? Remember when they said the world was going to end? They put out all these videos and they've sold millions of copies of these DVDs, and they still earn money and ad revenue peddling in disinformation. And in this particular case, verifiable, quantifiable, damaging disinformation. We don't hear anyone calling for the shutdown of the History Channel, do we? Do you know how many college funds were erased because of what people saw on History Channel? How many people's retirements were completely spent up building this kind of nonsense? The food that you would have purchased back then, 2009, 2010, probably is all inedible by now. It's absolutely the biggest case of hypocrisy I have ever seen in my life. Recently, of course, as we have seen, anyone peddling on this platform or another platform in damaging misinformation gets deleted, gets tossed off the platform. Except for History Channel or Nat Geo or Discovery. Now, notice I said in my lead-in, flare. If I had said solar flare, that probably would have been a complete and total lie. And of course, I used CNN as the reporting source here. Sorry about the notification. So that would make it through the sensors. And this is fact. A record-breaking flare did erupt from a neighboring star. Now, here's the real story. If an event like this were to occur, do you know who the biggest loser would be? It wouldn't be you. It wouldn't be me. It wouldn't be the people of the world. It'd be the governments of the world. We see this story here, 23 April 2021. Ridiculous and dangerous. Quote, Americans express alarm over social media snooping reportedly carried out by the U.S. Postal Service. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this article where they were tracking people and tracking social media websites to see if people were planning something that could be seen as a threat. Well, guess what? They need massive connectivity and real-time satellite comms to track the people of the world. See, if there really were one of these giant events, the big winners would be the people. Because without their tracking tech, without their ability to snoop in on what you're doing and see what you're doing, they're powerless. And nature abhors a vacuum. Where power is lost in one area, it's filled in from another area that has more, quote-unquote, social pressure. The power vacuums would fill locally. I brought up the wiki for what they called the 2012 phenomenon. This is Wikipedia verified fact. Ha ha ha. The 2012 phenomenon was a range of eschatological beliefs that a cataclysmic or transformative event would occur on or around 21 December 2012. The date was regarded as the end date of a 5,126-year-long cycle in the Mesoamerican long count calendar, and festivities took place, and everybody knows this. Everybody watched the shows. Everybody probably watched the shows 12 times. It was all over. It was a thing everybody could talk about. There were channels on YouTube that literally made their entire theme this prediction. They got millions of subscribers. Many of them were monetized. They made a ton of money. And it doesn't matter that they weren't right. The money they made, they just took, and they're probably still living off it to this day. And I'm sure the History Channel is still doing the backstroke in the piles of gold and cash that it got from peddling in this disinformation and misinformation. Selling garbage like this. Telling people to give up their life savings, quit their jobs, cash in their kids' college funds, and dig giant holes in their backyard or on empty lots and build these bunkers so that they could survive the Mayan apocalypse, the arrival of Nibiru, all this kind of stuff. And when it didn't happen, it's funny how there was very little in the way of people saying, hey, should we do something about this? Should we hold these people accountable for peddling this nonsense? You see, now in the current climate, I think it's very instructive. Because we see a different type of disinformation that they have a particular problem with. A certain kind of information that is a threat to them. You see, this was no threat to them. People wanted to waste their money on this. Fine, they didn't care. They didn't care. It actually stimulated a certain part of the economy, because whenever you spend money on something, it goes somewhere and it benefits someone. But boy, I tell you what, if it ever affected them, that would be a horse of a different color, would it not? I'm not saying it's a bad idea to be prepared, but you have to do so with wisdom. And you have to listen for context And you have to also take all information with a grain of salt, no matter who says it. I created this video today just to give people an opportunity to think and reflect and perhaps make a new plan going forward. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time.